hearing when we originally licensed this to Cagney's.
Yes.
So, before I open it up to the board, anybody have any comments or questions, concerns regarding the relicensing of the patio to the, what's the name of the new place gonna be?
The Poor Yard. RAC 208 is the corporate entity. It's all held under DeBono Realty. It hasn't, the DBA is gonna be the Poor Yard. P-O-U-R Yard.
Okay.
And I have the, Cindy, if you need them, I have the tax ID and all that stuff with me. I have it all with me.
Okay, thanks.
You have any questions?
No, we'll open it up to the audience. Come on up, Mr. McRitchie.
Thank you. As I kind of alluded to before, the current restaurant is licensed, the cafe, the Quincy Cafe, has a license for 4. Mr. DeBona stated that he's going to be shrinking the interior footprint of the new restaurant. The drawing that was submitted, if you count the seats, I believe it's 25 seats. I'm not sure how you can have a courtyard, the patio, with 50 seats. When the original license was granted for the courtyard, I wrote a letter to the licensing board suggesting that they were increasing the capacity of Cagney's from 98 seats to 148 seats. Several days later, I had a discussion with Mr. Duca, and please, if I'm mistaken, I don't want to misrepresent what you indicated, but that the occupancy of the building determined the size of the licensed premises, that the capacity, even though there were 98 seats outside, 98 seats inside, 50 outside, the total capacity could not exceed the capacity of the interior of the building.
That's correct.
So if he's licensed for 25 seats inside, how can the patio be licensed for anything more than 25?
What's on the license has nothing to do with the occupant or with the inside of the building.
That's correct. And the patio, and again, I understood that your position was there was not an increase in the size of the restaurant because they still had a total capacity of 98 seats.
Correct.
If the restaurant, the new restaurant being licensed has a capacity of 25 seats, and there's a patio with 50 seats, does he get to have 75 customers being served at one time under this license? Or is it limited to the maximum occupancy of the building?
Again, the license and the occupant load of the building are 2 different things. So in the building, you obviously cannot have 75 people. The occupant load will be 25. The amount of people in the patio is another issue.
Okay. Well, under the definition of restaurant local in the zoning ordinance.
We're getting into zoning, and I don't think
Okay.
we should be discussing.
Then we'll bring that before the zoning board. If there are pending zoning issues, traditionally the license board doesn't act. Is that correct?
I have not, I can't say that when I've been here.
You continue to act even if there is subject approval from the zoning board to allow a use?
This is already an allowed use right now.
May I speak of the, I mean,
Go right ahead.
we've granted licenses prior to zoning board, but there's no law that says you can't get a license prior to zoning board. It's a chicken and the egg. Some people will get relief from the zoning board and then hopefully get a license. And some people get a license and then hopefully get zoning relief. If there's a problem at the zoning board, he'll have to come back here and perhaps maybe adjust the license. But that's something for the zoning board. It's
Okay.
not going to be
Well,
raised here.
Then I'd like to address another issue, and that is the drawing that's been provided. When the patio was originally approved, there was a stipulation provided that there'd be no TVs outside in order to keep, I assume in order to keep the noise down. Is that correct? That a good assumption that there would be no TVs outside. The new restaurant has double doors that will swing open all the way, and the opening is directed directly towards Mr. Chenette's property. if there are televisions inside, and I don't know where the televisions are gonna be located, but if there are televisions inside that the people outside are watching and the noise, it's gonna have a megaphone effect.
I would say that if you're gonna talk about TVs inside that people can watch outside, that's just,
Well,
that's,
I'd like to.
Not
I'd
even
like to-
first address.
I'd like to just comment.
it's not outside.
well, the
We
noise,
have
the
a
noise
noise-
is a major issue.
We have a noise issue, and I just want to speak to that. There's nothing more frustrating than being a resident and being next to loud music. I made it clear at the last meeting that there was to be no noise. We have a noise ordinance. The police enforce it, and so does Inspection Services. It's very clear, the decibels, you can't go over a certain decibel. I intend fully to enforce the noise ordinance. That was the promise Mark made here, and I intend to make sure that he keeps it. Now, I was not aware of any noise complaints. Had I been aware of it, I would have acted on it. So I'm ready and able to act on any noise
Well,
complaints.
I did deliver a letter to you, and it was after, it was within days after, but there was a letter.
I think we talked about that. I mean, there's no.
We did talk about
If
it,
it's
and
after
I
hours.
requested a hearing before the board, and the board denied it.
Well,
The-
on the noise part of it?
Yes,
All right, so
Which
what
one?
happens after hours, if I can't measure the noise, then the best thing is to call the police. And then I can respond the next day based on a complaint and their activity log. And I'll be glad to do that. But there is a specific, in our noise ordinance, the license board is involved as well. If any licensed establishment, any 3 violations, he gets called before the license board. So there is regulations in place to enforce that.
well,
But I need
then
to.
why when I requested on behalf of Mr. Shinet a hearing before the licensing board?
Because we didn't
to
have
hear
any
that
complaints,
complaint?
he did not even come up with any complaints yet. You wanted to put a complaint in before we even got complaints. You wanted to come up with.
That's right,
an-
I wanted to bring a complaint
Right.
before the board.
I have to have 3 complaints before I can take it to the license board.
Is that in the ordinance?
Yes.
I'm not sure.
Which I can see where this is gonna go, but you're gonna be bothering us every 15 minutes
Thank you.
until something's done. So I'm not looking to create a problem here, but we've dealt with these noise issues in the past. So what happens is, there's 3 phone calls made tonight. This, the first day he opens, there's 3 phone calls that we have to address. So if we can work out something prior to
You're
that,
right.
you know, it'd be in everybody's best interest. Well, you're bringing up, where are we, what's your appeal with the zoning board? Exactly where are you going
Well,
with that?
I've raised 7 specific, what I consider to be zoning violations on this property.
And where is that? And at what level is
It's
that?
scheduled for the zoning board on April 8th, April 11th.
To do exactly what?
It's an appeal of Mr. Duca's denial to take enforcement action. He concluded that there were no violations, and I've raised 7 specific violations. You know, this isn't the forum to get into them, but there are 7 specific issues, including parking, including the creation of new lots.
So you have a venue to be heard?
That's right, those will be addressed there.
Okay.
Those will be addressed there, but I am concerned about a license for the seating capacity for a restaurant of 25 with what would be considered an accessory use, an outside patio that's twice the capacity of the restaurant. Two-thirds of the total licensed seats are gonna be outside, 5 feet under the window of an 11-year-old boy that's a tenant of Mr. Chenette's. And I don't know how, if the building load is a building load and determines what can be on the license, how a license can grant. And again, I understood from our early discussion, 50 seats outside, that means that 50 seats inside have to go unfilled.
You can't confuse the two. So the license can well be over the maximum building occupant load for the building. Because you could have a
Well,
golf
that's not,
course.
okay,
You
that's
could
not
have
what I
a tent at a
understood from
golf
your early
course
discussion.
where you have so many people in a tent, but you got 500 people in the golf course. So the license for the golf course would be 500. So you can't merge and confuse the issue here.
Well, again, it's going from 4 seats to 25 seats
That's a
inside.
zoning matter.
That is a zoning matter, and it requires a finding by the zoning board for an extension.
And that I believe they will act on.
I'm not sure that's even been applied for. That's not an issue that I raised, that's an issue that's been raised
Well, he's here
since.
before the license to see how many people he can get on the license, and that's what we're, should be dealing with today. The zoning matter will vet itself out, and whatever happens there will trickle on back down.
Well, doesn't he have an obligation to go to the zoning board to
No.
get approval to extend? You've got a non-conforming building, right? That's what you told the
It's
people
not,
from,
it's not a non-conforming use, these are allowed uses.
no, just,
These
with
are allowed
all due
uses.
respect, you just talked about the structure at the Villa Rosa.
Yeah,
Because it sits on the sidewalk, it doesn't have setbacks. If it's going to be, if they were going to extend the capacity, they would have to get a finding of the zoning board,
Correct.
correct?
yes,
It's licensed currently for 4 seats.
that's the license.
That's right, it's licensed for 4 seats. And it's gonna be a business use, it's gonna be licensed for 25 seats.
This is an allowed use. These are allowed uses, attorney. These are not non-conforming uses, these are allowed. These are conforming uses.
Okay,
This is a
so
business district.
if
So-
we have no other zoning issues, and this will all be taken up with the zoning board, and they'll figure it out, and then it'll trickle back down to us. Anything that we should be concerned about?
Yes.
Other that's non-zoning?
Well, the use requirement, the zoning ordinance requires,
That's the
Parking.
zoning board.
well, there's no parking at this facility. If you're gonna
There's
allow,
on-street parking.
pardon me?
There's on-street parking.
Oh, well, that's not what the,
There's
well,
no parking
okay, that's
in
not what
Wall
the zoning
Street.
ordinance says. Okay, so we'll
And
address
that's for
it.
the zoning board.
We'll address it.
Any other members have any comments, questions?
Can I make one comment? The doors that he's talking about that will open are handicap doors, so you can swing 2 doors open so that a person in a wheelchair can enter, use the restroom, and go back outside. That's up to building code.
Okay.
That's why they're there.
That follows the question, excuse me. Does that mean that the ramp will be built to handicap accessible limits? There's a ramp that's shown, I don't know anything about the elevations, but if the purpose of that is so that handicapped people can get in, then the ramp that leads up to that door will have to be built,
That
or else there has to be an
all falls-
appeal to the
that all falls underneath the
architectural
building
access board, is
department.
that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I just thought maybe somebody else would come up. Probably remember me from the last hearing, you still can't understand why somebody from House Neck would be concerned. That having been said, remember at the last hearing, there were a lot of issues about noise, congestion, and everything else. And it was my understanding after leaving the hearing that this was gonna be, and perhaps I'm putting words where they might not want to be, but go easy. It was gonna be a soft opening of this patio because of the timing for construction and stuff. Gonna try to open it, and the board was very generous in saying, you may open, give it a try, good weather, whatever, let's see how it works out, let's see how things go.
He did it for, I think, 3 events.
Understood and agreed and accepted. And based on that, I understand there was some comments earlier about having to go for a variance or something, for some additional soundproofing beyond the 6-foot height of fence, whatever. All of a sudden, now we're looking to add 25 seats, basically carve this away, in essence, create 25 more seats for uses of recreation, bar, restaurant, whatever you want to call it. I don't see that as go easy. I understand, but I just wish that people could kind of sort this thing out. There are some issues that are going to appear to be resolved or on their way to resolution in the next 3 weeks. I would respectfully ask this board in their wisdom to kind of go easy on this. Let's see how things play out a little bit. There seems to be, again, a lot of moving parts on this, and they haven't seemed to have settled in place. Thank you.
Any other members want to come up? Any comments, questions? Just come up, give your name and address.
Kevin Marino, 20 Raymond Street. I manage Republic behind Cagney's. I expressed to Mark earlier but we're the catch-all for the trash. And, my guys do what they can picking up. Granted, it's not all Cagney's, but I just want to express a concern that, if we could have a team effort on trying to keep the neighborhood.
absolutely.
And Mark did say he would try to pick it up, but I think it would be nice if we tried to keep it as clean as we can.
Actually, Kevin, if I could just respond to you, right after I left you today, I talked to my janitor who owns the cleaning company and added your parking lot and the side street to his daily cleanup. He said he'll go down there, take care of it. He was gonna come in and give you his cell phone number
Okay.
and said if you had any questions, give him a buzz.
Where did you trash your dumpster go?
We use nightly receptacles now, so all the trash goes on site every night. So it alleviated a lot of other problems for trash blowing around because there's none there anymore on my property. I think a lot of the trash in the area comes from Storage 24 or
Yeah.
whatever it is, Tedeschi, but on my expense, I extended the contract for my janitorial service to now take care of his parking lot and Raymond Street after we had a meeting today, I don't know, 2 or 3 o'clock today, we got together and chatted as neighbors. I've been neighbors 25 years. I mean, I do my part, I think, to keep the neighborhood clean, neat, safe, whatever. And immediately when you expressed some concern today, I said, no problem, my guys will take care of it. So Nick will be coming down to see you. We had a long talk today about it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, all taken care of.
So can I just ask you,
Sure.
how has this business impacted your customers' ability to park and to get into your property?
Well, there is, every once in a while, like on St. Patty's Day, we want the parking for our customers at 4 till 4:30 in the afternoon. Sometimes we have to put up a barrel, say, this is our parking lot, we want it for our customers. We don't want to hurt people's feelings, you get a reputation when you start throwing people out of there, but there is a conflict sometimes. Only because, he'll have a baby shower in the afternoon and, those people think their parking is there and it's our parking. So there's a little bit of a conflict during the days, but most of the time, it's not a conflict.
Thanks.
Any other members of the audience have any comments, questions? Please come forward.
One quick one, please. Just to clarify this is a new restaurant. How many seats are there?
It's a new
asking
CV,
for?
it's a new CV all alcohol.
So it's
It's not a
basically,
new restaurant. The restaurant's always been there.
but it's like you're issuing them like one of those liquor licenses that were turned in?
Yep.
Okay, so they're basically, they're not transferring it from someone else. They're
No.
basically getting well, bottom line is that the place was breakfast before, okay? And people went there in the morning. There's gonna be more people there at night. The use has changed. I really am confused. I videotape these meetings because, one, I don't have a good memory, and two, I can go back and actually do some research and figure out what happened at another meeting or something. Now, the license board, if someone wants to open up a restaurant in the city of Quincy, there's no parking requirements. You don't have to say like, I thought you had to have like 4 spaces, or for every 4 seats, you had to have 1 parking space. There's no such requirement to get a license from the license board to open up a restaurant when it comes to parking? Is that what we're trying to say right now?
It depends upon where the restaurant is actually located. If it's in a business area that's zoned for business and there's parking on street.
Well, I mean,
it's-
I just heard Mr. DeBon talk about the wheelchair accessible, okay? Is there a handicap space for a handicapped vehicle to park so they can actually get out of their wheelchair to get into the place? I mean,
I have no idea.
it's just like I said, I don't understand. I mean, there's a parking issue at the Torre de Pazzi where we are right next door. We have nobody. You come down that street and it's loaded. Cagney's is loaded. So they will make capacity. Right now, he's having parties where he has capacity for 100. Now it's going to be capacity for 150. That's a huge stress to the neighborhood.
John, you're asking a good question, but the fact of the matter is not every building has parking because it's an old city.
No, I know, but ever since, even when they fixed that building right next to the Tory, behind where Galvin built the building, that whole road now is like a river. You can't drive over it. I mean, I park and I stop, and that has to do with
This is
developing
not a
them.
brand new building, this is an existing building, so there's a different set of rules and circumstances.
No, but I mean, I just want the rules to be the same for everybody in the city of Quincy. And, you know, I have only been coming to the license board in, I think, April. This might be my 1-year anniversary of my 12th meeting coming here and watching this board. And I have a lot of respect for this board, and I think you guys do a great job. But I just get confused on what the rules are. And when it comes to Mr. Duke, you say, who do you go ask the question for? Like, I don't think you should be, you know,
We can have the discussion after.
who is the zoning expert? Who do I ask a zoning question to?
I can answer your question after the meeting. It's really not for the meeting.
Okay,
I can
okay.
answer, I'd be glad to answer.
No, but I know, but it's like, you know what I'm saying, you wear a lot of hats, Mr. Duker, okay? And it's like, you know, I know you're doing your best and everyone is doing their best, but I, as a citizen of Quincy, am just looking out for everybody. And most of the neighborhood is out here, they're against this project. So, you know, can we at least maybe get a continuance? That would maybe be a prudent thing, and come back, maybe have another neighborhood meeting or something, but that's just my 2 cents, and I'm not gonna talk again today.
Anybody else have
Happy
any comments,
anniversary, Jim.
questions?
Thank you.
I'll reserve my right as counselor to be last.
Okay. Anybody else want to come up before we hear from last call? Come on up. Hi.
Dave McCarthy, 48 Whitney Road, right up here in the square. Just a couple of things I just want to clarify, and I'm pretty familiar with the area. The letters of recommendation or approval came from the Union Hall and came from Sean Keneally. Were there any others?
Not,
So the Union Hall is probably 75 yards away from the establishment. It's not in the butter. I didn't hear, and I guess as just a point of information, did any of the abutters, Republic was here, the store on the corner, did any abutters, real abutters, not the Union Hall or not Keneally, who's 200 yards away, approve this, go along with it?
I haven't had any,
Nothing
Direct
at all.
letters.
Okay. Mr. DeVon also mentioned about trash, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. DeVon, did you say now, instead of a dumpster, it's gonna be trash cans?
It has been for the last
Right.
9 months.
So-
With the cooperation of the health department, we devised a good plan.
So with the capacity increasing regardless of, Jay, I know that whatever the rules are, they have a lot of people in there. It was pointed out by Mr. McRitchie and Mr. Shinet. Is the board's comfortable, and I don't know if this is, again, we got kind of a licensing zoning mix here going, with that 6 trash cans or whatever it is, taking the capacity of all that trash, that's fine?
Yep.
Rolling your eyes, that handles it?
yep,
They haven't any problems?
no, haven't had any. at
Well,
all.
we'll see what happens when
Cleans
the
up
patio,
whole- Cleans
except
up the whole area.
when the patio opens and the other restaurant is, they're gonna stay with that philosophy.
If they have to go up to 8, then they go up to 8.
They just keep using trash
Yeah.
cans. Okay, thank you.
Last call before we hear from ward councilor.
Good evening, my name is Margaret LaFarce, Ward 1 Counselor, for the record, 236 Rock Island Road. Earlier it was alluded to about notification, and as you're all quite familiar, as I'm a frequent flyer up here, in addition to the requirement of the applicant. So the legal requirement is upon the applicant, and I know you're familiar with this is just for edification of the audience and the record, is the legal notification they give is the certified mailing. It goes to the direct owner of butters. As the ward counselor, I go above and beyond. This, in the last community mailing that went to the residents of the area, and went from an area, I believe, of Elm Street, because I know I have an audience member who received my mailing that's here, all the way up to, I believe, Edison Park. So I tend to go far beyond, because I want people to understand, just because you're not within that 300 feet or whatever the required footprint is, there may potentially be an impact. So that was the letter that Mr. Shinet referred to earlier. And then that same mailing list was used here again. So hundreds, I believe, the City Council office has sent a copy of my letter to the board, as well as the list of where that mail went to. In addition, I partnered with Councilor Kroll. So I have the Cagney side of Washington Street. Councilor Kroll has the odd side of Washington Street. He did, I'm not sure the streets that he mailed, but I would say copy the footprint on the other side. So a substantial mailing went out to the neighborhood to alert them to this project. I will say it was a bit confusing, as we had discussion tonight about how Cagney's was still the owner and that the existing restaurant an allowed use by right, is now going to be operated by Mr. Demona with a new entity that we had not determined at the time of the letter. In addition to my mailing to this expanded audience, I've sent an email. I have 3,000 people on my email list, as well as Facebook. So it's well been communicated by this board counselor about this application before us. I do not like the idea of having a meeting to have a meeting. I think all those who are interested had plenty of advance notice to have this discussion today. What I need to say about Mr. DeBono is that investment in the property and investment in Ward 1 that he has made has really been a beautification. He's been true to his word. And what's great about him as an operator is if a question does come to me, I call him and he's very responsive immediately so. And I know that many of the board members have had that same experience with him as an operator. We were here last year for the patio and for the anniversary, and in 25 years, it's pretty rare that a business has never had a liquor violation. And I believe, Chief, you had said to him the last time that we had confirmed it had been, since he opened and applied for his permit, Cagney's had never had a violation. That's outstanding. That's outstanding for an operator in our community. I did send you the letter of support from Sean Keneally. I do have some additional Facebook comments that came in, both last I checked prior to this meeting. For support, I can send them to the record, but basically speaking to the same points, but I will submit them to you officially. The other thing that I see with Mr. DeBono's application is how charitable he is in the community. Chief, Local 792, whether it's the breast cancer awareness, the Toys for Tots drive that I've been a part of there, has been one of the largest in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And this isn't just the one-offs, this is consistent year in, year out. Relay for Life started here in Quincy. His customers are very committed, and I actually thought I can't think of his name, but he's obviously Toys for Tots in the wheelchair, and I think he works at Bay State.
Oh, I know about
One of your great customers. So I look at it as, last time I was in there, they didn't need to renovate the bathrooms. Spent the extra time, went above and beyond. The patio, the quality of the work has been top-notch. So the other quality I thought was very important to express is the longevity of his staff. So the same staff that you go in there have been there for, I don't know too many restaurants that can say they've had staff for decades. And he's had a lot of staff consistently there. So I believe I'd like to be here tonight to express my full support of this application. I've done my due diligence. I have not received one call in opposition. And I think, as you know, we hear when things get noisy, when there's a strong opposition. I've done more than above and beyond on the level of public outreach. As for the trash comment, Mr. Shealy, I know that you and I had a lot of discussions, and I was opposed to the removal of the dumpster. I didn't understand how it was going to work. And you said, this is something we want to try. We test drove it here, and it's really been terrific and cleaned up the area. I do believe he will clean the parking lot, as he mentioned, to the owner of Republic. But if not, we're going to hear about it, and we're going to enforce that. So, you know, I think that speaks volumes when you have an operator who's responsive to the requests. It's a by right use, it's an allowed use, it does keep commercial property occupying. I think will be an increase in the sales and mails tax to the community. So I see Mr. DeBono as a great operator, a good asset to the Ward 1 and the city of Quincy. Thank you.
Excuse me, Councilor.
Yes.
You mentioned Councilor Crowell. Did he weigh in on this?
So I believe he, I know he's not available today, but he did not say to me opposed or, I didn't, he said, we did the letter together, went out, we co-hosted the last meeting together.
How many people were at the meeting?
None.
None. And how many, at least how many mailings?
Can I ask a question to the councilor?
Go ahead.
So I talked to Brian. and he
To
told
Brian?
me- Brad, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Brad. And Brad told me that parking is a big issue with him. He wasn't on board with this, so I think there's a little dance going on right here, right now.
I can
Well-
He
actually,
didn't submit any comments to me or to this
He
board.
never contacted me.
He did say to me he got
He hasn't got a
phone
right to
call.
say that if it's not a fact.
We can
Now,
give
you
whatever
also
weight,
mentioned-
we can give whatever weight we determine that
Okay.
that's worth.
You also mentioned that you sent out letters to every residence. Would my tenants be considered residents or no? Would my tenants be considered residents?
In the commercial property? I'd have to
It's a
confirm.
residential property.
Yep, I'd have to confirm if they are on there.
Well, I just asked you a question. Would they be considered
Yeah.
residents? That's all.
Yes, they are
Yeah,
residents.
so you just told everybody here, you sent it out to all the
I
residents.
specifically
However,
sent it to you, the building owner, separately, since you said to me, you did not receive my initial mailing. I sent it specifically to you, the building owner, as well as to Mr. McRitchie. I asked the secretarial staff to ensure.
Mr. Ritchie didn't
For us.
receive it.
Kathy Noonan, I assured you, I will show you the text that she sent it to you specifically. I have a text from Brad, it's on Mark's phone, it says, "Hi Mark, I'm staying out of it completely, I'm sure you'll do a great job. Thanks, Brad." If you'd like to see, that's the
Well, my
text.
conversation with him was that parking is a big issue with them.
So,
And there's no parking in this restaurant.
so let me go back then.
Yeah.
You said we shouldn't take what she said because he's not here to say it. So why should we take what you said about him if
I
he's
guess
not
that's
here to say it?
Mr. Chairman.
So I guess,
Why don't you take the text that said, I'm staying out of it completely?
We're getting a
I
far
will,
afield here.
I know.
We'll give that whatever
Whatever
we
judge-
think it's
whatever weight
worth.
it
We'll
needs.
weigh that.
I understand that.
That's rhetoric as far as I'm concerned. We need to move on with this. We need to get back to the issue at
You've got
hand.
a counselor who's just stated a text that says, I'm staying out
She's
of it.
entitled to testify to what she wants to. Again, we'll give it whatever weight. She
Okay,
can say whatever she
I hope you
feels
weigh
like
it
she
against
wants to
the
say.
text that's-
We'll give it whatever weight we determine.
Thank you.
Texts mean nothing to me, so there's the weight that I gave it. There's a counselor here that's testified. She can say what she'd like, and we'll weigh that as well.
So typically, as I work with the budding counselors, and I'm before you, whether it's the licensing board, the zoning board, that's what we do. Whoever is the ward that the property is in takes the lead, and the other doesn't necessarily get involved. Did you want to know, the reach out for me to Counselor Kroll was, would you like, I'm not going to mail a letter to Ward 2 residents, that's crossing the boundary, right? Brad, this is happening, it abuts your district. We did the same thing. Anytime we have a project that's in a border territory, that's typically what happens. That doesn't mean I'm going to every neighborhood meeting in Ward 2. It's, are you aware that this is happening in case you get any calls? And he did say to me he received a call from Mr. Schnett. He said, did Mr. Schnett get a mailing? I said I was specifically asked, Kathy Noonan in my office, to mail to Mr. Schnett and to Mr. McRitchie. I confirmed with her that that did occur. So that is me doing my due diligence. Regardless, the ward counselor's mailing is not the official applicant's mailing. The legal mailing is what's before you today that's handled by your office. Mine is a secondary option for communication that isn't typically done. It's something that I choose to do above and beyond to a wider circle so that I'm ensuring I'm communicating. Communication and process are very important to me, and at every step of the way, Mark has reached out to me, made sure I'm informed. I've had conversations with particularly more with Drew and Jay, because those were the concerns that had been questions that I had had. So I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
With that, we'll close the public portion of the hearing. Board members, you can come right back up, Mark.
Any questions from
Any other comments,
Anything that's not
questions?
clear?
I actually do have a question.
Absolutely.
In the new proposed establishment, will it be a bar or is it just going to be seating?
The exterior will just be seating. The interior will have a small service bar with maybe enough space for 2 or 3 people to walk up to, but we need someplace to
serve you.
secure the liquor and have the waitresses come up and get their drinks.
So it's not going to be a bar, it's more of a restaurant essentially. So-
Yeah, it's a very small space. There's
And
not enough
just-
room to have
See-
a big bar for people to hang out at with a big TV hanging above
How
it.
I view this is, and with all due respect, the deck is there,
Correct,
Cagney's is there.
correct,
We're adding 21 seats,
correct,
not 25, because there's 4 seats apparently there, and I haven't researched it, but you tell me there's 4
correct.
seats.
And
So we're adding 21 seats, that's really what's at issue here.
yes,
Outside and decided.
Yes.
You have your appeal at the, Mr. McRitchie, you have your appeal at
yes,
the zoning, that's wonderful, and if they come back and they offer us more guidance, then we'll review it. But at this point, we're looking at a restaurant for 21 seats.
correct.
It's all because of the egress. It's all about.
Yeah.
Cindy
With-
knows.
No, I understand, I
Cindy
have
knows.
a
Yeah,
reasonable
that
understanding
you've
too.
condensed it all into a nutshell is exactly it. And it just simplifies everything from a business perspective and also simplifies things for the neighborhood, for cleanliness, and for the handicap aspect and the bathroom aspect, which was an issue that we talked about last time. Adding,
And for the record, from my knowledge, there's never been any issues with parking or traffic down there. We don't receive those complaints.
thank you. We do it.
And
I
that's
have-
not, I'm not,
I mean, I have a very good staff. We stay on top of things.
no, I understand, but parking really, you have no control over that, but we don't get the parking issues down there. We do get, it'd be like Drew had alluded to earlier, or Jay, if it's in Wollaston Center, if we were opening a new restaurant in Wollaston Center, if this was a new use, and it wasn't commercially zoned, or zoned for that use, I'd have a hiccup with it.
Okay.
It's not a new use. There's been a restaurant there for however many years. Since I was in the car in Delta One, it used to be, I think it was Phil's Bar or something,
Was.
way back when.
Way back.
Which was kind of a bucket of blood, but since then, you've had it, I forget the name of the place you said, there's been an approved use there. The restaurant that exists now is an approved use.
Correct.
What we're discussing here, the deck has been approved.
Correct.
What we're discussing here is a place with 21 seats,
Correct.
and that's how I view it.
You got it in a nutshell. Better than I.
Board members? Chief?
Could you just review your
I thought we
hours
closed
that
on it.
Yeah, we already did.
Did you close it?
Yeah.
could you just review the hours that the deck is allowed to be open?
The deck is allowed to be open,
Same as every.
yes, I think it's 11 to 11.
11 to 11,
11
stop
to
food at
11
10.
from Patriots Day to Columbus Day.
And food service to end at 10.
10.
Well, that's the
Food
orders
service
to
ends
go
at-
in at 10.
Off the deck by 11.
I just want to say that I plan on voting in favor of this.
Well, thank you.
But I believe Mr. Chanette has a valid point and valid issues.
Okay.
And I know there's a lot of passionate arguments here, and you're both passionate about your positions. I hope if this is approved and goes forward, that you can continue to work with Mr. Chanette.
I have reached out to Mr. Chanette on many occasions by email about the construction project, the patio, things that I want to do to benefit us both. I get no responses. I've brought those up to the building department. I'm trying to be a good neighbor. I've added above and beyond the stuff that I thought I should do to help keep that neighborhood safe and bright and clean. I have no animosity towards anybody. I just
don't
want to run a
see-
good business
I don't see the
benefits.
groundswell of opposition to this. The councilor had a public meeting, it appears nobody attended, so again, I would be in favor of it.
Thank you.
Board members, anything else for a motion?
Mark, the total number of seats.
I think,
What's on the plan?
you have it, I think it's 23, but honestly, Inspector Duker, until that's cleaned out and we kind of map it out a little bit better, that was Architect Salucci's rendering.
I need it for the state, I can't send it.
Well, that's
I have 3
Architect,
days to send it.
that's Architect stamp by
So 25?
Salucci, yes.
Okay.
And how many are on the patio?
We were approved for 50.
49.
49, correct. And all of the, I believe all of the patio inspections went through Paul Anderson. He was actually out on site.
Jim Anderson.
Jim Anderson, he was on site the other day and was looking at things and was very complimentary about everything that was done outside.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, and then the conditions of the existing patio as it was, no outside TVs,
Correct.
no ample
Everything stays
parking.
the same.
Everything stays the same.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to grant the request of RAC 2008 Inc., 208 Washington Street for CD all alcohol restaurant license with a 1,200 square foot patio with 45 seats, in the inside building, 25 seats.
49.
49 seats. On the patio, 25 in the building.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to grant the request of RACD 2008 Inc., 208 Washington Street, DBA Koi Yard, for a CV all alcohol restaurant license with a 1,200 square foot patio with 49 seats in the patio, 25 inside, represented by Mark DeBona, and I'll do a roll call vote on it. Chief Crowley, Chief Barron.
Yes.
Director Duca.
Yes.
Chief Keenan.
Yes.
And I'm also going to vote yes, which makes it 4-0, and that concludes. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
You're all set.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your input. Cindy, if you just send me an email of all the documents
Mr.
you need, I'll
DeBona,
get them out to you tomorrow
I
morning.
would suggest that you try and work with the neighbors to mitigate any of the noise issues, so it doesn't become a problem for you, for them, and for
I
me.
agree, I'm 100% on it, I just hope it's not every 10 minutes a frivolous call to your office saying, come out, come out, come
We'll
out.
sort that out, but
Thank you.
whatever you can do to mitigate the problem. Or potential problem.
Totally open for a sit down and talk about it, I have no objection. I just talked to the neighbor at Republic Plumbing today, we had a sit down today, he was concerned about trash. immediately I upped my janitorial contract, paid some more money and said, hey, clean this parking lot every day too. I'm a good neighbor, I will gladly sit and talk to anybody that wants to talk to me.
Thank you.
And if you have any questions, I mean, everybody knows how, you can always find me, okay?
Right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments too, though, thanks. Hey, thanks. If you have any questions, just give me a buzz, stop in and see me. All right.
Okay, we have one other item. We have a request from the Massachusetts Lottery to allow Keno on the Go at USP Automotive, 664 Washington Street. I see no objections by the board. We'll approve that, or send no comment into the ABCC. Do I get a motion to waive the minutes from the previous meeting?
Motion made.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to waive the reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This concludes the licensing board for March 21st, 2017. Thank you very much.